Okay, so this talk I submitted like kind of as a sarcastic joke because, yeah, another title I had for it was like how I almost lost my mind trying to cross-compile static CGO binaries from Linux to literally anything. So I've made some things, but what I'm going to be talking about here is the things that I'm not proud of and like that I would not recommend you ever trying to do on your own. But we had our reasons, okay? And it actually still works this way, and I'm sorry to all the people that have to maintain it because of the choices that we made. So one of the reasons that like we love to go at Docker is because of static binaries, and obviously static binaries, like you hear it over and over again. And Docker has always distributed static binaries, but we also now as of a few months ago, or at least 6 months ago, whenever I redid the apt repos, we have dynamic binaries in those packages. So before I get started, there's like one thing that you have to know about me. It's like when someone says that something cannot be done, it just makes me want to do it like 10 times more. And not even that, it's like I will not stop until it is done just because like you said it couldn't be. So yeah, that kind of has a lot to do with this, and it's pretty terrible. And then one thing that you also need to know about the Docker release process is that we build the releases for Docker on a Linux machine, and only Linux. So all the arches that we support for Docker are built on this Linux machine, and then we push them up to like S3 to be hosted. So that goes for like the Darwin binaries, the Windows binaries, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of what led into this monstrosity. So before we did the whole Windows daemon for Docker, we just had the client, so this wasn't a problem. Obviously Go cross-compiles by itself. But then when you factor in the part with the CGO, shit gets really complicated and horrible. And this is why you should probably just not even use CGO. So when I went to go figure out how the hell we were going to start releasing this shit without making our release process the most awful thing on the planet, combining all these computers and stuff. Yeah, I know you could do this with Jenkins and blah, 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 all about how cool you can make it, but we were going for simple here, okay, and not really to change our ways. I looked through our build of a binary, shell scripts, and I found this comment that said something about Windows and CGO and it being incompatible with link mode external, and I was like, oh god, this does not look good. And this was kind of like a piece of code that nobody really ever wanted to touch, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna fix it. So, and even it was funny, one of the contributors from Microsoft was like, I don't think that's gonna work, and I was like, oh no, 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 now I just wanna do it more. So, to me, it was an invitation. We shouldn't have to build the Windows binaries on a different machine than Linux. It should be possible with Go build flags, some LD flags, and some love. So I read the manual, and I opened a pull request, and I was like, let's make this cross-compile. I read the docs, so we don't need to build on a Windows host now. And I was so proud of myself, because look at that diff was only 15 lines plus. And I was like, yeah, I added a bunch of flags. So what we ended up doing was compiling it with a mean GW. I don't know how to actually say that. And you can pass that as your compiler, and then you can do CGO enabled 1, and then you can take out the whole link mode external thing because apparently that broke everything. And then I think we ended up actually adding it back in at one point because of some other reason, but I won't get into that now. So really this is just the main diff right here, which is pretty cool. So it wasn't all that complicated. I mean, it could have been way worse. And now this broke because I'm in it. Cool. Okay, and then I just added it as a daemon supporting thing that we can compile, which is cool. So then that was all fine and dandy, and we could do that. But then Darwin came along, because at one point we were only shipping for Darwin the client, but then with Notary and the whole YubiKey, you stick it in your computer, and all of a sudden you get all your images signed with this thing in your computer. It needed libLTDL, which is a hardware library, and that uses CGO. So shit. And this was I want to say a week before GopherCon, and I was actually at DocGo and super stressed out because I was there's no way we can do this. And then it was can't say that you can do it at GopherCon, and then we'll have to have some stupid Mac running somewhere and then have to release from there, and it will just be like, all hell had broken loose if like we couldn't figure this out. And I was like, there has to be a way. So this was like the most terrible thing ever. And we still, if you look, it's still there. So what you need is Clang, and then you also need like the Mac core library, which you get from this place that we hosted it on an S3, and I actually can't even remember where I got that tarball before, but it's super sketch. Like maybe the most sketch thing of my entire life, and I have no idea what's going to happen when they need to upgrade that, and yeah, it's terrible. But like you cannot do it without that, because how does it get the things? And then so you add some more flags with like -s to ignore symbols, and you can also even DL open yourself. Things go really downhill, and it's horrible. Yeah.